versus medical services. And that's exactly what this model shows us, is that if we just provided routine services all day long and hit the capture rate of 43%, and all we did was glasses sales and routine services, that would be about $4,500, 3446. If it were medical, it'd be $1,400. Now, the challenge is that what happens with the time delay, and what are you going to actually put in the bank in 2 weeks or 4 weeks once you get your chargebacks from the routine managed vision care plan, and then once you're going to get the deposits from the medical plan, or it's going to shift it to the patient's responsibility in the next 2 to 4 weeks. And so, what's that actual dollar value? And this is the point here: is we need to be aware of that dollar value so that we can just move it out of our mind and say, listen, I just want to take care of the patient. They both provide the same ultimate level of revenue. I know that's going to be the case, and I just want to take care of the patient. Hello and welcome to the Chris Wolfe Podcast on iCode Media. Today I wanted to talk about dopamine, but in this monologue, we're going to talk about the functions of dopamine. You remember probably from optometry school that it serves as a neurotransmitter. It serves in motor and movement control, and then also in cognition and emotion. But what we're going to talk about today is the role of dopamine in reward and pleasure, and specifically relating that to some of the things that we do in our practices. So please enjoy the monologue. As always, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, write a review, share it with your friends, and support those who support us. The most common questions I get include, what ophthalmological codes or evaluation and management codes should I use? What ICD-10 codes do I need to bill with this CPT code? What CPT codes can be billed together and what can't? And my favorite, how do I manage a patient who has diabetes who comes in for a quote-unquote routine eye exam? These questions really highlight the confusion and uncertainty that serves as a daunting hurdle for providers, makes it more challenging for them to care for their patients and provide those patients with the best opportunity for a lifetime of ocular health and clear vision. That's why we built iCode Education, for this specific purpose. Our mission is to provide optometrists with resources to help you understand disease states, revenue cycles, and billing and coding so that you can put that on autopilot and truly care for your patients. Check out iCodeEducation.com. That's EYECODE education.com. We've developed a premier billing and coding bundle that includes all of our billing and coding resources in one place. We also have a 10% discount code just for listeners of this podcast. Enter the coupon code EYECODEMEDIA22 at checkout. We'd love to work with you. Check out iCodeEducation.com. Hello, dedicated optometrists. Are you looking for a way to support your patient's vision and overall eye health? Let me introduce you to Vision Edge Pro, a visual performance supplement that stands out in our profession. Vision Edge Pro contains a balanced blend of mesozeaxanthine, lutein, and zeaxanthine in a 10-10-2 ratio. This combination has been scientifically shown to increase macular pigment density, which enhances visual performance, including contrast sensitivity and vision in glare situations. Additionally, Vision Edge Pro provides 300 milligrams of DHA and EPA, fulfilling the daily requirements for omega-3s as recognized by the leading health organizations. This ensures your patients receive the essential nutrients their eyes need for optimal health. Whether it's for everyday screen use, night driving, or enjoying the outdoors, Vision Edge Pro supports your patients in seeing their best. Recommend Vision Edge Pro for your patients today and help them achieve clearer, healthier vision. Contact your local MacuHealth representative for more details. Vision Edge Pro, because your patients deserve the best in eye health. Go to MacuHealth.com and use the coupon code PODCAST2024 at checkout for special discounts. All right, so let's get into dopamine. And when I think about how dopamine can impact the way we practice, I want to take a step back and explain a little bit about why that's important. When I work with practices across the country and really at large, when iCode and our consultants work with practices across the country, we really want to try to dive into the why behind why they do the things that they do. So we talk about identity a lot. I think that plays a lot into it, but I also like to call out the things that we do subconsciously. And so that's what we're going to talk about here is what is a subconscious action that occurs from dopamine that is released at different periods of time. So in general, when we think about reward, dopamine is what gets released when we have pleasure, right? So it's one of the neurotransmitters that get released, and it gives us a link to something that is pleasurable. So one of the things that has been studied a lot recently is the amount of pleasure that occurs from scrolling through your devices and what that does to our brains as adults, but also what it does to our brains as children. And so dopamine is we're studying a lot of that right now. But I want to take a step back and think about the monetary release from the pleasure centers when we provide different services. And this became pretty clear to me recently when primarily it came up with somebody asking about when they want to use an amniotic membrane, for example. And so what I think is really interesting is amniotic membrane has had a revaluation. Now, they're still really important clinically. They're very beneficial. But the amount of reward, monetary reward that comes from an amniotic membrane, putting that on a patient is a lot less now than it was even just a year ago. And so a lot of times people haven't thought through that difference in dopamine release. And so they still think it's a really high value procedure. And it is. But when you take out cost of goods and you take out the amount of time, et cetera, it's not all that much higher of a value than providing a 99 code with specific additional procedures that you might perform. Now, that is not to say we don't do amniotic membranes. Again, the whole idea is we want to provide the best care for the patient first and then be rewarded by that care over time. But it's to say that it just popped it back to the front of my mind. And I don't want to do the data on that just yet. I want to dig through it a little bit more, but it made me remember, like, okay, well, let's talk a little bit about on this podcast, what are the other actions that we might be doing that are linked to a positive dopamine release, and then also a perception that doing other things for patients may not actually give us that same financial reward. And so really this kind of harkens back to when I talk to doctors a lot about incorporating chronic disease management into their practice. I'll get the response that they can make more money. They'll let other people do that. They'll still identify it and refer it, but they'll make more money if they provide comprehensive or routine eye care where they're selling glasses or contact lenses. And so the goal of this exercise, and if you're listening to this on the podcast, you can swap over to the YouTube channel as well to watch the video, because I'll actually work through some of the numbers, and it's sometimes helpful to see on the video compared to just the podcast episode. But for those of you listening, I will work through the numbers verbally as well. And so the bottom line is that the financial reward, is not necessarily better or worse when you're managing chronic medical diseases compared to selling glasses and contact lenses. But it's very similar. And I could make the case that almost either one could be better in certain circumstances than the other, but they're relatively equivalent. So the monetary reason to not do one or just do the other, it doesn't hold when you actually look at the dollar value that occurs. And so I wanted to work through those dollar values and realize that the amount of dopamine that occurs in some of those services that you're providing is delayed. So let's get right into it. If we think about the time delay that occurs when we provide medical services versus when we provide routine services, it is important to understand that difference can actually make a difference in our perception of the value of that service. So if I wanted to increase the revenue in the bank, if I wanted to increase receipts in the bank tomorrow, it's always going to be better to provide routine services and sell glasses and contact lenses today than it would be to provide medical services today. So if I'm looking at my bank account and I'm thinking, oh boy, I need to put some more money in that bank, the way I do it immediately is to sell glasses and contact lenses today because those credit card receipts, those checks, those cash deposits are going to be deposited tonight, presumably, and the next day or two going to show up in my bank account. And that's the dopamine hit I want you to be consciously aware of. The difference between the delay that occurs when you are providing routine services and you get the money tomorrow or the next day into your bank account versus medical services where you might get a copay today and then it gets deposited in your bank account tomorrow if you've collected the copay, of course. But then the actual payment is going to come 2 to 4 weeks later. And that time delay makes it harder for us to have the same dopamine release for providing medical services unless we're consciously aware of it as providing routine services. Now, again, I have stated this time and time again. The point here is not about money. We want to take care of patients first, but this exercise is related to the dollars and how it stimulates our brains to release different chemicals. So in this model, I'm going to go through sort of optical receipts on the day of service. And what you're seeing here is a real world example from that I had Dr. Alex Martin work out for me on different patients. And you can look at this for single vision, for multifocals, and Dr. Alex Martin will be incorporating a new module on iCode that talks about optical sales. So I'm super excited about that. And some of the stuff he does is exactly what I'm going to show you here on this podcast. So essentially, if we took this first patient, we'll just say, you have a frame and lenses, and he broke it down into patient responsibility and vision care plan payment responsibility, and then total revenue. So total revenue for frame and lenses, what you billed, what the patient paid. And what I wanted to do is work through the numbers today on what a patient pays. So let's say that the patient has a $10 copay. They pay $76 for their frame and $198 for their lenses, and they get a ultra wide field imaging screener, and they pay $39 for that. Let's then play that out and say, okay, if we look at the MBA metrics and the capture rate for glasses, so we're just going to assume glasses on this, and we're going to assume a 30%, which is the average MBA metrics capture rate. And if we saw 20 patients a day, that would mean 9 patients purchase glasses. That's $2,907 from the patients who purchase glasses and pay their copays today. And then only 11 patients get exam only, which is revenue of $539. That means money in the bank today, the dopamine hit, the reward for our services today is $3,446. Okay, so that's the amount of money that's going to be put in the bank to probably between today and the next 2 days. So that's a reward financially now. Now I want to compare that to the amount of reward that occurs if I were just providing medical services all day long. I still saw 20 patients a day, but now we're going to go on the higher end of copay. So this could be even less, and this differential is important because if I assume a $70 copay for every medical evaluation that I see today, and all I did was medical, 20 medical patients, that would mean I'd generate $1,400. And that means that best case scenario, if I collected copays up front, which you're supposed to do, but many offices don't do that, that means I'm going to put $1,400 in the bank today. And so if I were to ask a group of doctors, they almost always tell me, if I say which one's more valuable on shifting your bank accounts tomorrow, they're correct. It's providing routine services today versus medical services. And that's exactly what this model shows us, is that if we just provided routine services all day long and hit the capture rate of 43%, and all we did was glasses sales and routine services, that would be about $4,500, $34.46. CooperVision and the AOA have joined forces in a groundbreaking initiative to transform how optometrists treat children with myopia. The Myopia Collective aims to unite our profession and its allies to challenge the status quo and elevate the standard of care for children with myopia. Everyone is invited to become a member of the collective. By joining, you pledge to act in slowing childhood myopia progression. Membership includes regular updates and information about the collective's efforts, access to educational opportunities and resources, and insights from the ambassador optometrists who advocate for community policy and changes supporting the collective's mission. Click the link in the show notes to join the collective today. One of the challenging things with patients is that when they invest in a really high quality pair of glasses and customized lenses, occasionally it can be difficult to keep those lenses clean, scratch-free, and smudge-free. Now, we have the ability with Crizal Sapphire HR lenses to offer our patients a best-in-class anti-reflective coating that is also resistant to scratches, smudges, and deposits. This means that patients spend more time enjoying clear and comfortable vision and less time caring for their lenses. So remember that you can provide patients with the best in quality, best in class, transparency, clarity, durability, and UV protection in a single Crizal coating. If you want to learn more about Crizal Sapphire HR, contact your Essilor account executive or visit essilorpro.com/Crizal. If it were medical, it'd be $1,400. Now, the challenge is that what happens with the time delay, and what are you going to actually put in the bank in 2 weeks or 4 weeks once you get your chargebacks from the routine managed vision care plan, and then once you're going to get the deposits from the medical plan, or it's going to shift it to the patient's responsibility in the next 2 to 4 weeks. And so what's that actual dollar value? And this is the point here, is we need to be aware of that dollar value so that we can just move it out of our mind and say, listen, I just want to take care of the patient. They both provide the same ultimate level of revenue. I know that's going to be the case, and I just want to take care of the patient. And so if we look through this same model and we look at how much we're going to actually collect and put in the bank versus how much cost of goods is going to be taken out of that. So chargebacks and cost of goods, what is that going to do to today's revenue? So again, if we take that same amount that we're going to get in chargebacks over time from the managed vision care plan, we use the same numbers. So we collected $10 for the exam. Maybe we're going to get $55 from the managed vision care plan. We collected $76 for the frame. The managed vision care plan is going to pay us $81.54, and they're going to charge us back about $83. And then the lenses, patient's going to pay $198, but they're going to charge us back $83, and we still get our ultra wide field imaging, which translates into $295.39 per every comprehensive exam or routine exam with a pair of glasses. So again, we use the same model of 43% capture rate. And now for our 9 patients who purchase glasses and get a refraction and a comprehensive exam, it's going to be $2,600.58 plus 11 exam only, which is $1,144. And that's going to be a total of $3,802. So $3,800 in this model. And then if we look at the medical payment that's going to come in 2 to 4 weeks. Now, let's just assume a level 3, a 99213, we're going to use Medicare national averages, and let's just assume a visual field on every one of those patients. A lot of these patients may need more tests if you're billing it appropriately, and especially this model would be reduced significantly, and the differential between the two will be a lot less if you're not billing for tests that you're performing or you're afraid to repeat tests that are medically indicated. So this is going to shrink that number down anyway. But what I want to show you is if we just look at a level 3, an established level 3 in a field for every single one of those 20 patients, obviously there's some of those patients who are going to need different services. Some of them are going to be needing less or lower levels of services, or they're going to be needing more special tests, which are going to increase the number here. But just to assume a simple model, that would mean that every single one of these patients' Medicare national average would be $154.13, which if you saw 20 of those patients would be about $3,082 for today, but that's going to come in the bank accounts in 2 to 4 weeks. So now we look at the differential, and still it's tilted slightly in the routine, but it's not that big. So it's not the difference between $3,200 and $1,400. It's the difference between $3,800 and $3,100. And so that differential can let you step back when you understand this and say, listen, I don't care if I'm managing a patient with chronic eye disease or routine care. Ultimately, it's going to be very similar in terms of the revenue per the time I'm spending on these patients, and it should be almost as rewarding to the practice. The last point I'll make here is that I certainly can show you a model where the medical testing and the medical treatment is more advantageous than this routine model. And I can also show you another routine model where it's more financially advantageous than the medical model. But what's really important for you to do, in my opinion, is to actually work through these models so that you understand that it's about the same. And no matter what, no matter how you cut it, they're very close. And when you understand that, it allows you to take care of the patient in front of you without concern that you're going to be losing money somehow because you're providing too many medical services and not enough routine services, or vice versa. Our approach within iCode and Comprehensive Optometry Simplified has always been you do both, because you are there to take care of the total patient, the totality. You are responsible for the totality of that patient sitting in front of you. And understanding these models allows you to remove those barriers and that differential in the dopamine hit that may prevent you from doing what you think is best for the patient and what in fact is best for the patient. So I hope this was helpful. Please like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, you can check out our YouTube channel. We're growing the video component of this podcast. So like and subscribe, smash the subscribe button, as the kids say, and I'll see you guys on the next one.